Family Guy's time travel episodes are always memorable adventures in the series, with Brian and Stewie visiting all sorts of different times in history. And that's why in this video, we're going to remember all the time travel episodes of the series. One of Brian and Stewie's favorite pastimes is using Stewie's time machine in the time travel episodes. The first season showed Stewie building the time machine to avoid the pain of teething. Throughout the series, Stewie and Brian used the time machine to have fun and provide some of the most exciting moments in the cartoon's history. Next, we'll show you all these incredible moments. Subscribe to the channel and like the video for more content like this. Take the opportunity to suggest the theme for the next video below in the comments. Road to Germany. The first time travel episode occurred during Season 7, Episode 3. The controversial episode begins with Mort Goldman stumbling upon the time machine while at the Griffin house after mistaking it for a bathroom. Stewie and Brian decide they need to follow Mort to the past to bring him back. This takes them to 1939 Germany, on the brink of World War II. They quickly find Mort, but realize the return platform is unloaded. Brian, Mort and Stewie travel to England to obtain more uranium fuel, which powers this version of the return platform. Meanwhile, they are pursued by German soldiers. They manage to obtain the uranium and return home safely, 30 seconds before Mort enters Stewie's room. To ensure that these events do not happen again, Stewie eliminates the time-traveling Mort by placing him inside the time machine and blowing it up. The Big Bang Theory. Season 9, Episode 16. The episode is a story about Stewie almost being erased from the universe. We start with Stewie using the time machine to mock Brian, causing the two friends to fight over control of it. This takes both of them out of the space-time continuum, making them become trapped. Once stranded in the middle of nowhere, they must find a way to get home. They use the return platform, causing a huge explosion in the middle of nowhere. When they returned home and compared the energy signature of the explosion, Stewie discovered that he created the universe by accident with the Big Bang. When everything seems resolved, Bertram, Stewie's half-brother, decides to use the time machine to erase his brother from existence. The problem is that Stewie created the Big Bang, which means that if he were erased from existence, so would the universe. This forces Stewie and Brian to go back in time to try and stop him, resulting in an epic adventure, with Stewie discovering that Leonardo da Vinci is his ancestor. Through a twisted twist, Stewie has to kill Bertram and become his own ancestor before returning home. This really is mind-blowing. Back to the pilot. Season 10, Episode 5. The episode shows Brian and Stewie taking a very different trip through time. Brian wants to find a tennis ball, which he buried 10 years ago. Stewie offers to take his companion back in time to find out where she is. This takes them back to the pilot episode of Family Guy. Initially it's quite fun, as they make fun of the main changes that the series has had over the decade. As the series only went into high resolution in its 9th season, all scenes from the past take place in a low-definition universe. Stewie tries to tell Brian not to mess with the timeline, but Brian doesn't pay him attention and tells his past self about 9/11, preventing the disaster. The butterfly effect leads the US to a post-apocalyptic state in the near future. Brian and Stewie go back in time a few more times to try and fix the timeline. This doesn't work either, as each new trip changes the timeline even more. After several attempts, they go back in time and find multiple versions of themselves in different futures. It all ends when the original Stewie stops him and Brian from going back in time, at the first time. The paradox makes this version of them to be erased from existence and everything returns to normal. Yug Ilamaf. 11th Season, Episode 4. It may seem like a foreign expression, but it's just the name of the show backwards. The episode begins with Brian using Stewie's time machine, intending to pick up women and unknowingly increasing the trip counter. He tries to reduce the counter manually, so Stewie doesn't find out, but collapses the machine in the process. When Stewie finds out and they try to fix it, the machine explodes and causes time around it to begin rewinding at exponential speeds. They race against the clock to correct the flow of time before Stewie was never born. Stewie runs out of time as his birth approaches, and tasks Brian with finishing the repairs. Brian manages to fix the time machine and the time stream, and arrives at the hospital just as Stewie is born again. Life of Brian. 12th season, episode 6. This is one of the series' most memorable episodes because it is the episode in which Brian dies. The episode begins with Brian and Stewie on another time travel adventure. They go back in time after a previous adventure had them giving weapons to Native Americans. They see the result of this change was not positive and take back the natives' weapons. They then return to the present day and destroy the time machine, as so far it has only gotten them into trouble. Unfortunately, Brian is hit by a car shortly afterwards and Stewie is unable to avoid it. With the time machine destroyed, Stewie cannot go back in time to prevent this from happening, which takes Brian out of the series for a few episodes. Christmas Guy. 12th season, episode 8. It makes sense that one of Family Guy's time travel episodes would help undo Brian's controversial death. In the episode, Stewie is at the mall meeting Santa Claus when he sees another version of himself from the past in a store, which he traveled back in time to, before Brian's death. He had the idea of stealing his return platform so he could go back in time and prevent Brian's death. He returns shortly before everything happens, hoping there will be time to save his friend. Stewie successfully goes back in time and manages to save Brian from being hit by the car. He then sends the return platform to when it belongs. Soon after he disappears as a result of the temporal paradox, after altering the timeline. In other words, everything that happened between these two episodes never happened in this timeline. Stewie, Chris, and Brian's excellent adventure. Season 13, Episode 7. Stewie and Brian's latest time travel adventure revolves around Chris being about to fail 9th grade, unless he can pass the next history test. Stewie and Brian try to help Chris with his test, but realize that conventional learning techniques aren't working for him. Compassionate about his brother, Stewie offers to take Chris on a trip through history so that he can learn something. Although Chris didn't retain any knowledge from this adventure, the time travel worked. That's why the adventure resulted in the death of an ancestor of his history teacher, giving him a new teacher who never passed the test that Chris would fail. Baby Stewie. 18th season, episode 15. While not a typical Stewie and Brian adventure, this is technically one of the series' time travel episodes. The episode begins with Brian telling Stewie that he will lose his intelligence during puberty, as this has happened to Chris and Peter before. He convinces Stewie that this is true when he shows him a video of smart Chris as a child. Convinced of this, Stewie decides to stop the aging process by rearranging his DNA. In the process, he ends up accidentally turning into a normal baby. Unable to deal with a real baby, Brian decides to go back in time and reveals to Stewie that Chris' video was actually a montage. This makes Stewie give up on entering the machine, preventing the problem before it happens. While the episode doesn't show Stewie and Brian's usual type of time travel adventure, the episode relies heavily on the time machine itself and is worth mentioning as it involves time travel to resolve the situation. Subscribe to the channel and like the video for more content like this. Take the opportunity to suggest the theme for the next video below in the comments. See you in the next video.